Hello, welcome everybody. I'm so glad you can join us today. This is our monthly Ask the Chairman Anything with Ken Abramowitz. My name is Marcia Steinberg and I will be moderating today. Today, Ken will be speaking about the recent proposal by the World Health Organization to take over worldwide health policy and how it's dangerous. As usual, his presentation will take around 15 to 20 minutes. And then we're going to go into audience Q&A. We want to know what you want to hear. And we'll go as long as you have questions or until 5 p.m. I want to get into our upcoming events. So please save the date for our next Ask the Chairman Anything. That will be on Thursday, July 14th, also at 4 p.m. That's Thursday, July 14th. Be on the lookout for those emails coming around. And our in-person seminars will be taking place starting in the fall. They're held in Boca Raton in our wonderful state of Florida. So if you can come down this way, we'd love to see you in person. Please save the date. The first one will be November 20th. That's Sunday, November 20th, with Dr. Harold Rode. He'll be speaking about how do Muslims interpret Islam. And just to get started, as always, we like to start off with a quick poll to see what you think. And here we go. Our first poll is, who is our major enemy? Do you think it's China, Russia, Iran, or the UN? Just click on the box and let us know. Okay, almost everybody's in. Anyone else? Okay, we have 80% believe it's China and 20% believe it's the UN. 0 for Russia and 0 for Iran. Thank you very much. Let's do that one more time. We have one more. How should we defeat our enemies? Should we use physical war? Should we use cultural war, economic war, or cyber war? Physical, cultural, economic, or cyber? Give a few more people a chance to chime in. You guys are pretty quick on the trigger here. Looks good. We have 0 think we should go to physical war. That's not very surprising. 17% cultural war, 33% economic war, and 50% cyber war. Thank you again. All right, let's move on quickly and let Ken jump right in. Let's take it away, Ken.
Okay, thank you very much, Marcia. It's good to be with everyone today. What I thought I would do is give an update on globalism, and in particular, focus on the issue of the World Health Organization, because it happened to have been a very big issue about 1 or 2 weeks ago. It only lasted for a few days. I'll explain the controversy, and then the controversy died down when the administration withdrew its suggestions. And so everyone's forgotten about it. But what happened was very, very serious, and I'll explain that. And I want to discuss, I'll spend some time talking about globalists in general and among our other enemies. First, let me give you some help relative to the 2 questions that everyone just answered. Those were purposely loaded questions because the real answer was all of the above, as you could have guessed. When you're juggling your enemies, so to speak, or more likely they're juggling us, you have to have policies for all of the above. So I'm going to show you a slide in about 1 minute on the reds, the greens, and the blues, as I affectionately call them, our enemies. The reds are the communists and socialists, or former communist socialists or authoritarian governments. The greens are the Islamists, and the blues are the globalists, which is the focus of our time today. If you were a professional juggler, just pretend, I don't know how to juggle, but pretend that you did, and you're in the circus, so to speak, and you're juggling 3 balls up in the air, and one is red, and one is green, and one is blue, to color code our enemies. And I say to you, Mr. or Mrs. Juggler, which of those 3 balls are most important, the red, the green, the blue? You would say to me, excuse me, I'm a professional juggler. I juggle 3 balls at the same time. They're all important. I don't even know what you're talking about. And although that's just a joke, I think it's true. In other words, the reds, the greens, and the blues have declared war on us. We didn't declare war on them. We don't think we're in a state of war. But we just go about our business, doing our jobs, or our family, friends, our reading, our vacations, whatever, trying to make money to pay the mortgage. We do all of those things. We don't wake up and say, oh, we're in a state of war. But the bad guys wake up and say, yeah, we're in a state of war, and how are we going to take over these losers in America or Europe or Israel, also civilization. So, Marcia, why don't you, for 2 minutes, why don't you put up the slide, the red, the green, and the blue slide, just so I can go through a 2-minute summary of philosophy. Some of you have seen this before. And it's color-coded, and we're obviously in the middle, and we're the sunshine, the sunlight of Western civilization. We believe in the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and the Bible, and you merge the two together, and you have what I call normal or rational centrists. And by the way, we believe in life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for 100% of the population in the world. Now, we have a sister group of people, some of us are from time to time, which is equally patriotic. I call them the whites. It's color-coded white for the surrender flag, but I don't mean it in a derogatory manner. They believe in life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for everyone in America. I believe in life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for everyone in the world, even though I can't affect everybody in the world, obviously. I just think human beings, whoever they are, wherever they are, have the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. But the isolationists would say, yeah, if they're in America, how am I supposed to worry about people in Ukraine or Iran or Taiwan? You know, we have enough problems here. Let's focus on our problems here. Not irrational, but that's the whites. Neither the red, yellows or whites are in a state of war, but the reds, the greens, and the blues are in a state of war. The reds are big government types. They could be called communist, socialists, authoritarian. They could be called progressives, who are actually regressive. And in terms of countries, this would be China and Russia. By the way, this slide is what I call World War III, the attack of the reds, the greens, and the blues on the people who are normal, the yellows and the whites. And in contrast to World War II, which was over there, World War III, half of World War III is right here. So even though China is over there, they're in America. And even though Russia's over there, they're here at the same time. And the greens would be the Islamists. That would be Iran, who again is over there and here at the same time. And it would be the Muslim Brotherhood, supported by Turkey and Qatar. And there are thousands of mosques around the world and schools. And as well as Al-Qaeda, ISIS. And then you have the blues, which is the focus of today. So let me focus now, let's go to issue number 2. Now that we saw the big overview, let's focus on the blues. So Marcia, you can take the slide down, and we're going to focus on the blues. The blues, in the slide, it said the United Nations, but it's because the United Nations is color-coded blue because their helmets are blue. So that's why I colored it blue. Within the globalist category, there's three categories. I didn't have room on that slide. The slide would have gotten too messy if I tried to include everybody. So it's the United Nations and its sister organizations like the World Health Organization, like UNRWA for the runs refugee camps for the so-called Palestinians in and around Israel, the International Criminal Court, and the Human Rights Council. These are four of the best known of their subsidiaries. There's many more. And that's number one. Number two would be the high-tech companies, Facebook, Twitter, Google. I put in the globalist category because although they're American companies, they manage themselves on a worldwide basis and they don't follow American law. As you know, in America, we have a Constitution, Bill of Rights, we have freedom of speech, but Facebook, Twitter, and Google do not recognize our freedom of speech because they have one foot in China and one foot in America. And in order to keep their Chinese friends happy, they restrict freedom of speech in America. And the third part of the blues would be the World Economic Forum. You might be familiar with it through the name of Davos. They have a big annual conference in Davos where they all fly in their private planes to Davos to discuss climate change and reducing carbon dioxide emissions, which they never do in their own lives. Also, you've heard of World Economic Forum through different of their slogans like New World Order, which President Biden used a few weeks ago at a press conference, or the Great Reset, or stakeholder capitalism. The World Economic Forums are roughly 40 years old, and it was founded in Germany by Germans, and Klaus Schwab is the president, and he basically thinks he's the ruler of the world. It's basically an out-of-control think tank that wants to impose its will on the world. So these are the three elements of the blues, so to speak: the UN, the big tech companies, and the World Economic Forum. So now let me now go and focus on within the blues, within the UN, let's focus on the World Economic Forum, also known as WHO, so to speak, the World Economic Forum. Now, the World Economic Forum became a big issue, obviously about 2 years ago when COVID broke out. And just as people were looking, what did the CDC say in America? What did people also ask, well, what recommendations did the World Health Organization have? And Americans and other people around the world look to both of those organizations for direction. As you remember, it was a very confusing time for all of us. It suddenly broke out, so to speak, became a huge issue. We didn't know that much about it, either we, the people, or we, the experts, and everyone was scrambling to try to figure out what we should do about it. And we created a policy under multiple directions of the CDC, the World Health Organization, plus President Trump and his team. And we came up with a strategy, and after 2 months, we had a close down of the society for roughly 2 months, causing the GDP to contract by 1/3. And in retrospect, it was a mistake, but at that time, it looked like a logical thing that we might have to do. And it was done at the suggestion of the CDC and the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization also said that we should keep our borders open and our planes flying. President Trump overruled the World Health Organization and closed our airports to Chinese flights very quickly, and then a few weeks later to European flights. And so through this turmoil, the World Health Organization did not prove itself to be very helpful. They gave misinformation about closing our airports. They never did a study to see where did the virus originate, China, Wuhan. Was China involved in gain of function research? In other words, were they trying to take a naturally occurring virus and make it into a super virus, so to speak? Did it get out of the lab by mistake or on purpose? Was it exported to the world by mistake or on purpose? These are all big, heavy issues that the World Health Organization never addressed, because the World Health Organization is run by Director Tedros, a PhD, but not a doctor, from Ethiopia. And he is basically, he's a Marxist and was appointed by the Chinese Communist Party. So sadly, WHO is basically part of the Chinese Communist Party. It sounds like it's part of the UN, but it's really part of the CCP. 1 second, please. So the World Health Organization failed us at the moment of truth. Now, what happened about 2 weeks ago, an issue broke out, which was a fascinating issue. It only lasted in the press for 2 or 3 days. But evidently, from January to May, the Biden administration had given the World Health Organization 12 suggestions or amendments to their code, which were to be discussed May 22nd to 26th, roughly, at the World Health Assembly, I believe in Geneva. And America had proposed basically giving the World Health Organization superpowers. In other words, the power in another pandemic setting to basically take control of the healthcare systems of the world. The EU, European Union, signed up for this. The US was going to sign up for this. And the US was encouraging everybody to sign up for this. Came public. And of course, the Republicans made a big issue out of it. And after a few days, the administration withdrew the recommendations. But it provoked a key question. Who in the administration provided these 12 or so amendments to the World Health Organization, encouraging them to have the power to take over the healthcare systems of every country signing up, and it would have been most of the countries, superseding the authority of our local health administration, like a CDC, or just local hospitals and doctors, or the American Medical Association, or whatever power group we might have in America. Who gave the World Health Organization the right to overrule the American healthcare system? So this provokes a very interesting question. Like, I would like to know who in the State Department had this bright idea, who presented it to the World Health Organization, and also it was supposed to be countries were supposed to sign up, and they had the right to withdraw after 18 months. And then the Biden administration changed it that you only had a right for 6 months, which was conveniently at the same time of our midterm elections, which could have obligated our future governments to be to give up sovereignty over the healthcare system for the next president and the next president and forever, and make it, in quotes, international law, so to speak. So this was basically treason in action. And I'd love to know who the culprits are. We won't find out. I'd love to see them fired. They won't be. I'd love to see them in jail for working in concert with the Chinese Communist Party. They won't go. And it became a very big issue. And then it died immediately when the administration said, oh, we were only joking. And the World Health Organization said we were only joking. Just go back to work and stop thinking about this issue. So I just thought it was very notable because it could have passed. And it's also very notable. It shows that within the Biden administration, there's a whole group of people in the State Department working against the interests of the United States, which is very serious. But rest assured, it won't be addressed by the current government, but it'll obviously be an issue in the midterms on November 8th. So that was my quick update of everything that's wrong in the world. Quick update of Reds, Greens, and Blues. declaring war on us, which creates World War III, even though we don't think we're in a state of war. And a quick update of the UN and the World Health Organization. So I'm going to stop here. I've gone about 20 minutes. And Marcia, why don't you see if we have some questions on any issue, World Health Organization, the UN, the blues, the greens, the reds, whatever people want to talk about.
Okay, listen, everybody, you heard Ken. Let's hear some questions. Let's hear what you want to hear about. All right, so we have a question here. Do you think America should quit the UN?
Yeah, in a perfect world, America should leave the UN. First, we never should have joined the UN in 1946. There was a controversy before in 1923 about joining the League of Nations, and we ended up not joining the League of Nations. We shouldn't have joined the UN. And we should have tried to kill the idea, because countries are responsible for countries. We don't need a super country, so to speak, above us. Pretend the Western Hemisphere government to guide America. We don't need help. America's a sovereign country. Every country is a sovereign country. And I think sovereign countries should make decisions for themselves. We don't need multinational superstructures. Now, one of the problems we have is if we left the UN, and then China and Russia would be in control of the UN, and on the Reds, and on the Greens, you'd have Iran and the Muslim Brotherhood, financed by Turkey and Qatar, in charge of it. And then they could pass some announcements, or I wouldn't call them laws, but they could sanction America for being evil or on some issue or not. So the problem we have now is we should leave the UN if we can get everybody else to leave the UN. But assuming we can't get everyone to leave the UN, and by the way, if we could, we should set up a United Nations of democracies. There's no reason why we should have dictatorships outvoting us, democracies in the United Nations. So, so we're sort of stuck with this, and we should basically do what the Chinese do. The Chinese, I heard Secretary Pompeo speak about this a few months ago. The Chinese are very aggressive at gaining power in every single committee, every single bureau, every single agency. They regard it as like a food fight. I mean, they want to win everywhere and put their people everywhere to create policies to make life difficult for America. Well, we can play that game. We can try to put our diplomats, I mean, assuming our diplomats do something, we should put our diplomats in areas of influence up and down and around and make life difficult for China. So we should treat it as like an Olympics, so to speak, and or a competitive sport, and treat it seriously and do the best to mold the UN in our favor. So I guess that's what I would say to do now.
All right, so you're suggesting that we have moles or infiltrators in our government. What should we do about it?
Well, the question is, are we in a perfect world or not? In a perfect world, we would identify the culprits, obviously. We would fire the culprits, obviously. I would go further and say we should arrest the culprits. And but we don't live in a perfect world. And you can't get rid of these people if they're civil servants. And if they're political operatives, we can't get rid of them till we have a new president. So during the next 2.5 years, there's nothing we can do about this. But if I would like to see the next president have on his or her agenda going after the people in the administration who were obviously working for the other team. And whoever came up with this idea to transfer sovereignty over the healthcare system to China would be like pretty high on my priority scale to find them and make them pay, so to speak, for their treason.
All right, switching gears. Can you comment on what role America should play in the Ukraine-Russia war?
Well, I like I'm sure everybody here is dismayed by the war between Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine and Russia, not that we know we as Americans, not that we know so much, but just Russians and Ukraine are cousins, so to speak. But they can't even be brothers and sisters. And it's like watching the American Civil War of 1861. If we were around, why should Americans be killing Americans? We couldn't figure out some other way to solve our problems without killing each other. And so I look at this somewhat akin to that. Also, I don't like to see Christians fighting Christians. Christians are under attack by the Reds, Greens, and Blues. So fight the Reds, Greens, and Blues. That's the enemy. The enemy is not each other. And so that's very disturbing. Now, on the other hand, Russia is a red, according to my terminology. Not that they're communists anymore or socialists anymore, they used to be, but they're just an authoritarian. And President Putin is basically the czar, or recreation of the czar. And if he declares war on the Ukraine, I know it's not a NATO country, but it's more like Taiwan or Israel. We don't have a treaty with Ukraine or Taiwan or Israel to defend it, but we certainly have a moral responsibility to defend it, particularly since we encouraged Ukraine to get rid of the nuclear weapons about 30 years ago. And in return, we guaranteed that we would protect them. Well, no one remembers that treaty anymore, except the Brits. The Brits take it seriously and have been supplying, as have America now, supplying a lot of weapons. So at this point, we should supply all the weapons we can find to the brave Ukrainian soldiers to kill all the Russians they can kill. Even though I don't want to see dead Russians. I like Russians. There's no reason we should be killing Russians. But if Russians are killing Ukraine people and employing policies that are beyond our comprehension of cruelty, I mean, we're talking about World War II carpet bombing. We're talking about a desolation that might have happened in the Middle Ages or before, when various lunatics did whatever they did. This is a barbarism of its first order. Putin is a war criminal, and we have to make Russia pay, as sad as it is. And we have to make the Russian soldiers, even though the 19-year-old conscripts shouldn't really be killed, they're killing Ukrainians, and we have to help the Ukrainians kill them until Russia comes to its senses, or until the Russian government comes to its senses and pushes Putin out. It's never easy to push out a dictator, pushes him out, and hopefully comes up with someone like Gorbachev, who says, why are we doing it? Is this madness or what? And basically works out a compromise with Ukraine and gets out of there. So that's the sad situation we're in, of killing Russians, not because we hate Russians, but because they hate Ukraine, because Putin hates Ukraine, and we have to punish them.
All
What
right,
else?
a little switch of gear again. What does the U.S. do militarily regarding hypersonics and in cybersecurity with AI? And should we as citizens know our capabilities, or are we better served being kept in the dark?
Well, I mean, we're all little mushrooms kept in the dark. But one of the issues that I just started doing some research, and I have to talk with some experts in the field. How come we're not the first with hypersonic weapons? The Russians have them, and China has them, and North Korea has them, and we're just making them operational, which is jargon for we're going to be able to deploy them in 2 or 3 years, but we can't deploy them now. So someone did something terrible, and someone some traders provided some of this technology to our enemies, and made sure that we didn't develop them ourselves. So I'd love I have to spend some time researching this with some experts in the field. I'd love to find out the double culprit who provided the technology to our enemies and kept the technology from being operationalized, so to speak, in the US. So this is a huge issue, and it's embarrassment to the country. We're always the leader in technology, but not here. So this is a black stain on the military or some people within the military who didn't do their jobs, and I'd like to know who they are. In terms of AI, AI comes out of universities, comes out of corporations, it comes out of government. China, because it's a top-down country, has made AI a huge part of its future. America's a bottom-up country, so that means if Raytheon wants to use AI in military terms, they will. I'm sure they will. If Johnson & Johnson wants to use it in medical terms or for diagnosis, they will. So our AI efforts are within our corporations primarily, whereas China does it more top-down and orders corporations to do different things. I'll still take our system because our system is full of competition, and we rely on competition of scientists and engineers to figure things out. We don't go to science and engineers and say, produce a new iPhone 18, just to pick a number out of the air. Produce iPhone 18 or I'm going to kill you. We don't operate that way. We produce iPhone 18 after they produce iPhone 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, and it's produced by the normal competitive forces. And it'll have AI or whatever else it'll have in it because competition forces or encourages Apple and the scientists and the engineers to create it. So I'll still take our model of creativity over the top-down do something or I'll kill you model.
All right. Switching gears again. What do you think of the show trial that the Dems are trying to put on TV against the January 6th political prisoners?
Well, our government has adopted a lot of the techniques of the Reds, the Greens, and the Blues, and it's sad to watch. I spend a bunch of hours looking at videos. As you can imagine, a lot of people took videos of January 6th, and I looked at them. And there was also a movie created called Capital Punishment. And in my mind, this was a Democrat job. It was conceived of by Nancy Pelosi and the FBI. Aided by a lot of agent provocateurs and invited Antifa folks to create a mess out of a rally created by Trump and his people, which they hijacked and then created chaos and then framed Trump. Now, 90% of the people believe that it was a Republican insurrection, so to speak. I believe it was a Democrat insurrection. And somewhat akin to, people tell me in 1933, Hitler blew up their Congress, I think a building equivalent, I think it was called the Reichstag, and used that as an excuse to take power. So I look at it somewhat akin to that. And I saw in the videos the policemen voluntarily opened up their metal barriers surrounding the Capitol Hill. They opened up the doors into the Capitol building itself. They disarmed the metal detectors and allowed people to just enter. They didn't break in. The doors were open. Well, policemen don't open doors unless they're ordered to open doors. So I'll bet Nancy Pelosi ordered them to open up the gates, open up the front door, and then create chaos. And Trump's people just walked right into a trap and were framed. So, and now there's something like 600 normal protesters in jail for a year which is obscene, and they're holding them there because they don't want them talking. Well, governments don't just hold people for a year because they don't want you to talk. So the government's behaving in a legal fashion here, and it's very dismaying. The Republicans are not complaining enough, and so now we have these show trials, whereas Nancy should be part of the show trial. The FBI should be part of the show trial, and it's a very sad moment for America. And the next 6 months will be more sad moments for America until November 8th. What else do we have?
All right. How do we battle through the next election with the same media in place?
Yeah, well, America, roughly 80% of the media is basically an arm of the Democrat Party, and 20% of the media isn't. So, which I'm told is better than other countries where it might be 90-10 or 95-5. So we have to hope for the success of the 20%, and we have to hope that Musk takes over Twitter and flips one of the social media companies. We have wonderful radio talk hosts like a Dan Bongino, Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, and the left, the Reds, the Greens, and the Blues, do not have great radio talk hosts of the caliber of intellects that we have. So it's the glimmer is the remnants are there. The minority is still very vibrant. What I call the yellows and the whites. We are the minority. We're getting beaten up, mostly culturally, sometimes physically, by the Reds, the Greens, and the Blues. But I think there'll be a very surprising lesson to the Reds, the Greens, and the Blues on November 8th. And that'll help revive the forces of good, or as I say, the forces of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for 100% of the population. So I'm actually optimistic. I'm pessimistic about the next 6 months. I'm very optimistic from November 8th onward.
We're at the end. Somebody else just popped in. We do have a comment. So regarding the radio talk hosts, the ones that are very good on the right, or the conservative ones, are preaching to the choir, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah. So I can add, how would you get them to have a wider audience would be something.
Yeah, well, if you want to look at life simply, a third of the people are Republicans and believe in life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. A third of the people are Democrats and don't have the same loyalty to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. The battle is over the third in the middle. Okay, the 1/3 and 1/3 can't talk to each other anymore, and so the battle is over the independents, so to speak, or the unaffiliated people in the middle, and they're harder to reach, obviously. And what generally happens is the left talks to the left and the right talks to the right. Now, the battleground's in the middle. And I think the people in the middle are going to be affected less by ideology of I'm right about this, they're right about that, whatever the issue is. And I think will move their votes and allegiance based on what they see right in front of their eyes. So, for example, you can't get baby formula for your kids or grandkids because the FDA closed Abbott Laboratories factory for 3 months. For a problem that required a 3-day fix. They spent 3 months thinking about it. And when it became a front page issue, the FDA said, oh, yeah, we were only joking. Yeah, sure, you can open up the plant again. So when people can't get baby formula, when they have to pay twice the price for gasoline, when inflation's 8% and their salary increases are 5%, and every month their money goes less far in terms of buying what they want to buy for themselves and their families. the show trials, the embarrassing show trials, the crime, the guilty Democrats being freed, so to speak, from police custody, while the non-guilty Republicans are arrested. I think another 6 months of this nonsense, so to speak, will affect the third in the middle and flip them over. Not because of ideology and not because they say, oh, I used to be a red, a green, and a blue, and now I'm a yellow or a white. I think it's just pure and simple challenges of daily living that will flip them over to become what I call normal.
All right, staying on the same topic of the midterm elections, are the Republicans doing enough to make sure there will be no cheating?
Elections in America, as everyone knows, are run by the states and the counties, and not by the federal government, thankfully, due to the wisdom of the founding fathers. And so in round numbers, half of our states are Republican and half are Democrat. So the Republicans, I think, will do an increasingly better job at running elections in their states, and the Democrats won't. So at least we'll have half the country operating functionally. And not all the Democrat states are out of control, run by red, green, and blue lunatics, so to speak. So I'll just guess that 27 or so Republican states and 10 Democrat states can hold an honest election. And whatever the differential is, 13 or so will run dishonest elections. But I think I think people are going to show up in such numbers in November that they can overwhelm the 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5% that can be cheated, so to speak, because so many people will show up. There was a famous movie 40 years ago, which some of you might remember, called Network. And it happened to be on TV on Turner Classic Movies, and I happened to see it again. I was meaning to see it again, but all of a sudden it was there, and I saw it again. And they had a very famous expression by the lead actor, who was upset over some things at his TV station, it doesn't matter what. And he opens up his window in Manhattan and yells out, as many of you remember, I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. And then 10 of his neighbors in the New York City open up their windows. They didn't even know why they were as mad as hell, but they said, oh, I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. And so I think the American public is going to be as mad as hell and won't want to take it anymore, so to speak, over the next 6 months. And will show up in droves on November 8th to reclaim our country based on life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for 100% of the population.
Okay, we've reached the end of our questions. Unless you have some closing remarks, we are at the end of.
Okay, great. So thank you, Marcia. Thanks everybody for listening. And remember, we'll see you in about a month on July 14th at 4 o'clock. And just stay strong, intellectually strong. And remember that we're all loyal to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for 100% of the population, whether we like them or we don't like them, or understand them or don't understand. Human beings have God-given rights, and this is our right, and we have to force our government to protect our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, just as it says in the Declaration of Independence and formally in the Constitution and Bill of Rights. So again, Marcia, thanks for your help. Thanks, everybody. It was great to hear your comments and thoughts, and we'll see you on July 14th, unless there's something happens, but most likely July 14th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for showing up, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.